Well, since everyone liked the first video, here's another. Hello everyone, I'm Natasha, and today I'm going to be recommending you some books that I've recently read that remind me of Disney movies. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, go check it out. I'll have it linked up above. But I have decided to do a series of videos where I do Disney book recommendations. If I read a book and it reminds me of a Disney movie, it's gonna go in this recommendation series. If this is the first video you've ever seen or you didn't know, I have a love for Disney. I have a massive love for Disney. I am born and raised in Southern California. I grew up going to the Disney parks, and now I have made it my goal and mission in life to share as much Disney content as I can, including on here and on my Instagram. So today's outfit is inspired by fall time, even though it's like 95 degrees outside, and Snow White. But the first Disney princess movie that I'm going to be talking about today is The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is actually my favorite Disney princess. She was the first princess that I ever dressed up as. I had a horrible wig and a tail and everything. Someday we'll find those pictures again and post them. But today's video has been kindly sponsored by Disney Book Group and their new book, Part of Your World by Liz Braswell. So this is a series of twisted tales. If you haven't heard of this series before, it is a reimagining of Disney classic movies. The tales are twisted. Ho ho ho. The tagline for this is, what if Ariel never defeated Ursula? I'm sorry for the theatrics. This is kind of perfect. I mean, thank you, Disney, for working with me. This is set 5 years after the movie, and King Triton did not defeat Ursula. Does Ursula still have Ariel's voice? It's been 5 years since the infamous sea witch defeated the Little Mermaid and took King Triton's life in the process. Ariel is now the voiceless queen of Atlantica. Okay, I'm right. Yes, she's voiceless. While Ursula runs Prince Eric's kingdom on land. I want to start this now. I haven't read this yet, but this is like, yeah. I'm itchy, I'm gonna read it right now. This is like fan fiction of Little Mermaid, and I love this, but it's like canon. Well, it's not really canon. You know, it's entertainment from Disney. Ariel discovers that her father might still be alive in this book, and she finds herself returning back to a world and a prince that she never imagined that she would ever see again. I'm getting so many feels. I love Little Mermaid. Part of Your World by Liz Braswell is out in stores now. I've seen this series all over like Target. I am officially picking this up to read. This is a young adult retelling, but I feel like if you have children who are, you know, ages 10 and up, I'm sure this would be really, really fun to read to them. I will have this link down below if you want to get your hands on a copy. Obviously, this is like a direct retelling / twisted tale of The Little Mermaid. It's from Disney, but my book recommendation videos, I don't typically take retellings and then tell you guys to read them. Sometimes I'll read a book and it reminds me of a Disney movie, but other times, of course, I'm going to take a retelling because there's so many retellings out there. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Obviously, I've waded through what I think is a good retelling. So next on the list is a book that you guys recommended to me to read, and I read The Shadow Queen by C.J. Redwine. I got this on audiobook because I like to read a physical book and listen to a book at the same time. I will download an audiobook while I'm driving, cleaning, cooking. It's just a great way to constantly consume stories. If you guys ever want to listen to audiobooks, there's a couple different ways to. There's Scribd, audiobooks. Your library will have free audiobooks. I use Audible, so I pay a monthly fee and I get like 2 credits a month. If you guys want to sign up for your first free audiobook from Audible, that'll be linked down below. It's an affiliate link, just so we're clear. So I picked up The Shadow Queen, and this is a retelling of Snow White. Snow White was the first princess movie that Walt Disney ever created. It made him big bucks. It was how he was able to create Disney Studios. He pioneered animation movies with that film. However, the story is very antiquated, not very feministic. There have been so many reimaginings of Snow White, and my favorite reimaginings are obviously when Snow White is like a badass or there's magic involved, because in the original it's just about beauty. That's it. And finding someone who will love her. The Shadow Queen is a retelling I feel like it's more like Snow White and the Huntsman. We have Snow White and her name is Lorelai, but she has magic. So instead of the evil queen being like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is fairest of them all? It is more of a power play. So she says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is most powerful of them all? It's more of a power conflict between the evil queen and Lorelai Snow White. If you guys really like Snow White and the Huntsman, you're definitely gonna like this one. Snow White isn't my favorite princess. I like to dress up as her because we have the same coloring with like the dark hair, light skin, light eyes. I definitely prefer a more action-packed and like thrilling retelling of Snow White, and that is The Shadow Queen. Next is our book of the month for August and July. This is The Forest Queen by Betsy Cornwell. So I've been talking about this on my channel for a couple months now. Obviously, it's our book of the month. Thank you to HMH team who have kindly sponsored this portion of the video. This is a gender-bent retelling of Robin Hood. Robin Hood is another animated movie from Walt Disney Animation. If you guys ever want like more information on like Walt Disney Pictures or animated movies, you should go watch my friend Sarah Snitch. She does like in-depth things down to Disney's. Great stuff. Robin Hood wasn't really my favorite Disney movie. I've met a lot of boys who love Robin Hood. You know, it's a guy who steals from the rich to give to the poor. When I heard that they were doing a gender-bent Robin Hood, I'm like, yes, I'm here. I'm here for this book. So far, I'm halfway through this and I'm loving it. Our live show is September 18th on my channel. It's gonna be a little late. I love Robin Hood because of Once Upon a Time, and Once Upon a Time is owned by Disney. ABC is a conglomerate of the Disney umbrella. Disney owns a lot. Some people try to argue with me that like Star Wars isn't owned by Disney, and I'm like, hello, were you there for the
$4 billion deal that they made?
They brought Robin Hood into Once Upon a Time, and he was just made me love Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a classic story. It's not just owned by Disney, so there are tons of movies. We follow a 16-year-old girl named Sylvie in The Forest Queen. She is actually someone who is from an astute family. Her older brother John becomes sheriff of Woodshire, not the Sherwood Forest, and her brother John plots to marry off Sylvie, and she's like, I know, I am not gonna be married off. Excuse me, sir. So she runs away with a very handsome huntsman named Bird. A couple of characters come along, and together they form their own sort of, you know, band of merryweather people to fight off the king and the noblemen. So far, what I'm loving about this book is the writing style. It's so beautiful. It's also quite a thin book, so I'm getting through it really quickly. I'm just having fun. You know, retellings are fun. Like, you know what's gonna happen at the end of the story. Sometimes they can be twisted, but for the most part, you know what's gonna happen. You reread these retellings because you love those stories. Anytime that I can read a Disney movie is a good time for me. There's such a difference between watching something and being able to actually read it. When you read it, you get to make up your own characters, your own world, your own mind. Literally get to become characters. I think that's why people love to read. And while Disney movies shaped my young life and my life now, and I'm able to go to Disney parks and have fun and like be in the world, there's still nothing better than actually reading a book. And it's so fun when authors get to twist bits of classic stories and make it their own. Next is a book that I recently just read, and I can't believe I finally read it. It is Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. So I know a lot of you guys are like, Natasha, I've already read this book. Okay, I understand. I get it. But for some of you maybe who haven't read it, just like me, like I never read it when it was really popular a couple years ago, new books are coming out, so people are reading it again. This book reminded me a little bit of the Avengers, mainly X-Men. However, X-Men is a part of Fox, and currently Disney is acquiring Fox in a $67 billion deal. It has not been set in stone yet. It still have to go through the FDA. So right now we're gonna say it's like the Avengers, okay? But really, it's like X-Men. There are people who have powers in this novel. It is a dystopian type novel. I would say this reminds me mostly of maybe the first Avengers, probably like Age of Ultron. Just the setting of Age of Ultron, it just reminded me of this book. I'm excited to get through more of these books because the first one, I could definitely see myself as a 15-year-old loving this book. But as a 24-year-old Natasha, it was just fun. I would probably categorize this as like a trashy YA because you get what you get, you open it, it has all the same tropes that everyone loves. Kids in this have powers, and so that's why I've related it to the Avengers. So if you guys like people who have powers and superheroes and teaming up and uniforms and stuff like that, you're gonna like Shatter Me if you haven't read it. And there's just a lot of like fun romantic stuff in here too. I guess she reminds me of the Hulk. That's what it feels like. Like, she's the Hulk, and Adam reminds me of Natasha Romanoff. And we all know how that ended. I got on like a superhero kick, okay? After I finished Shatter Me, I went in to read Red Queen. Look at me. Look at Natasha. Reading all these books that were once popular and not so much anymore. Red Queen is another like dystopian type novel. Red Queen is like Red Rising meets The Bachelor. Whatever that book is called by Kira Cass. If those two had a baby, that's what Red Queen is. I feel like Victoria Aveyard did a much better job in creating more likable and fun characters than Kira Cass did in the selection. In Red Queen, there are two different groups of people. There are the people who are like below poverty, and then there are the royals. The silvers and the reds. Only the silvers have powers. The reds do not have power, so they are looked down upon. They aren't seen as like celebrities or royal or important people. Mare, who's the main character of Red Queen, gets a job in the castle where the royal family resides. She makes a big mistake. She reveals that she has powers, and these powers just kind of erupted in her. There had to be a switch that needed to be turned on. So Red Queen reminds me of Captain America. Yes, I'm on an Avengers thing. Disney owns Marvel Studios, so if you like Captain America, the first Avenger, then you're definitely gonna like Red Queen. There's a lot more, actually, I wouldn't say that, because there's romance in the first Captain America. That's why we have Peggy Carter. I had so much fun with Red Queen. Like, I've heard so many different opinions and people's thoughts on this book because it's so hyped, and because there are so many different tropes that are used in other books, but I honestly, it was so much fun to read. I loved listening to the audiobook. I would stay like seated at my desk doing my makeup for extra long just so that I could continue to listen to the book, because it was just like such a ride. I don't know, Victoria Aveyard did a really good job with that book, and I can now see why it's so popular, and I'm very excited to continue on with this series. And let me know if you think it draws back to Captain America, because I think it did. Yeah, I think it's Captain America all the way. Although Mare and Captain America are completely different characters. Like, she is not a goody two-shoes at all. I can't find this book. It's somewhere on my shelves, hiding somewhere, but We Were Liars. If you guys have never read We Were Liars, it is an intensely dramatic, twisty-turny novel. It's extremely short. You could get through it in one sitting. I read this back in, 2014, 2015? Anytime anyone asks me for a recommendation, and I'm, trying to impress them, I'm like, you should read We Were Liars. And I feel like We Were Liars really relates back to Peter Pan. I think there is a theme of not wanting to grow up in both stories that really resonates. There's not too much of a twist in Peter Pan, and it's really just, a fun, childish story. But in, We Were Liars is extremely dark, so I wouldn't really give We Were Liars to someone under the age of 10. But if you know someone, or if you are someone who loves Peter Pan, I think you would really enjoy We Were Liars. Just be prepared that it is dark, and that it is kind of like a mystery thriller novel. The theme of wanting to stay young and kind of staying put, nostalgia runs thickly throughout this novel. And for my last recommendation for you guys, I have Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. Nexus is coming out next year. Who's excited? This is basically Guardians of the Galaxies except with girls. If you guys just recently bought this in the Barnes & Noble book haul blowout sale, go ahead. You should read it, especially if you're missing all the Marvel movies. There are so many fun fleshed out characters in this. I love the conflict between Andromeda and Dex. It's so much like Star-Lord and Gamora. This one is more like the second Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2, because we already have an established team. They're called the Marauders. They are pirates. They are space pirates. Basically what Guardians of the Galaxy are. So instead of the Guardians, we have the Marauders. Instead of mainly all males, we have mainly all females. And then the villain in this, it's a villain that you don't really want to hate. You understand the villain. I mean, when I was reading it, the villain felt like the evil queen from Once Upon a Time, because I love the evil queen from Once Upon a Time. But it could be the gold people from Volume 2, that queen, who's obviously going to show up in Volume 3. I can't remember her name. If you guys are feeling some Marvelness, you're welcome. It's a really fun space adventure, and I'm also just so proud here to promote and pump up my friends. So if you guys haven't read Zenith yet, go get it. All the books will be linked down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope I was able to give you guys some good recommendations. Let me know down below what other books I should start reading to get my Disney juices flowing. And once again, I have The Huntress on my TBR right now. That's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I still need to read Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. That is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and you betcha I'm gonna draw back to Once Upon a Time. There's a couple more, but right now I'm having fun with my romance and rom-coms, but also sprinkling a little bit of magic here and there. I hope you guys have had a magical day. Yeah, I went there. Thank you to Disney Book Group and HMH Teen for sponsoring their portions of the video. I'm Natasha. I'll see you all in the future. Keep calm and fangirl on. Bye!